I'm State Representative Ben Cannon, and we're in my Capitol office. If you've driven on a freeway lately, been helped by a state police trooper, visited an Oregon state park, sent your child to an Oregon public school, or known a senior who's receiving in-home care or nursing home care, chances are you've been served by a program run by the state of Oregon. And all of the programs I've described, and many others, are slated for significant cuts over the next few months as the state weathers a severe economic recession. If you're like me, the process of budgeting the state uses looks pretty complex. It required a steep learning curve when I began 2 years ago. And for someone who's not in the building every day, isn't a professional lobbyist, it can be pretty intimidating. That's why I've made this video, because I want to help you understand how we make the decisions we do, and I want your help in making better ones. The Oregon legislature has one constitutional duty: to balance the state's budget. And unlike the federal government, we can't go into debt, except for capital projects, such as bonds used for school or road construction, and we can't print money. So where does our revenue come from? Well, there are three main sources. The largest source of revenue for the state, about 50% of our total budget, or $23.6 billion over the last couple of years, is dedicated taxes and fees. This category includes everything from tuition paid by students at Oregon universities to gas taxes paid by drivers and fees paid to obtain a hunting license, visit a state park, drill a well, or mine on state land, for example. Under state law, these taxes and fees are generally dedicated to programs that benefit the people who pay them. So boat registration fees, for example, are dedicated to boater safety programs and facilities and can't be used for schools. A second source of revenue for the state, about 19% of the total, or $9.2 billion during the last couple of years, includes payments from the federal government. This category includes, for example, Medicaid dollars that the federal government gives to Oregon for the provision of health care to low-income and disabled Oregonians. The legislature has relatively little discretion about how to spend these dollars. The final source of revenue for the state includes personal and corporate income taxes and lottery revenue, about 31%, or $15.1 billion over the last couple of years. And lawmakers and the press focus most of their attention on this category, which we call the general fund, because most of this revenue arrives without strings attached. The Oregon legislature decides how to spend it. Oregon spends more than 90% of its general fund on three categories: education, human services, and public safety. Far and away the largest chunk of the total goes to school districts on a weighted per-pupil basis, and this constitutes the primary source of revenue for our K-12 schools. Back in June 2007, the Oregon legislature adopted a 2-year budget for the period ending June 30th, 2009. We set aside 1% in an ending fund balance in case the projections about revenue we would receive over that period were off. We met again briefly in February of 2008 to make small budget adjustments. Even at that time, no one predicted the economic downturn that we've seen since. Oregon's high unemployment rate, coupled with our dependence on the income tax, means that our general fund is now projected to receive at least $800 million less during this biennium than when we adopted our budgets nearly 2 years ago. That, in turn, means we need to spend $800 million less than we have budgeted, and we need to realize those savings over just the next 4.5 months. While $800 million represents only about 5% of our total general fund budget for 2007 to 2009, it represents more than 20% of what we have budgeted to spend between now and the end of the biennium on June 30th. So the legislature needs to act this month to reduce budgets in line with these new revenue projections. While it's not possible to raise revenue quickly enough to cover the gap, there are two ways that we might experience a softer landing. The first would be for Congress to finalize a stimulus package that provides immediate payments for the states. It's not clear yet how much relief we might get from the stimulus bill currently under negotiation in Congress, whose details are being hashed out in conference committee. The second would be for the legislature to tap some or all of the rainy day fund we created last session. Together with the Education Stability Fund, created by the legislature during the last recession, we have approximately $800 million in reserve, but not all of which we're permitted to spend in a single biennium. These decisions, Congress's decision about an economic stimulus package, and this legislature's decision about tapping the rainy day fund, will be made in upcoming hours, days, and weeks. And that's why it's so important that you're in touch with me now to let me know what your views and opinions are, and that you encourage your friends, neighbors, and family to be in touch with their legislators as well. I encourage you to use the online dialogue that I've created at my website, www.repbencannon.com, and really look forward to hearing from you. These are challenging times. It's going to be, the consequences of this will fall on all of us. But we can pull through it together. Thanks.